Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of The Quiet Rebellion. I'm Kathie Lapcevic, and I'm super excited to be starting this podcast and video series with you. And today, I'm going to give you some tips on living a quiet rebellion in your everyday life. And while it is really super important that we speak out and be active outside of our homes and our own personal lives in the causes that we believe in, it's also really important to be quietly rebellious in our day to day activities and just how we live our lives. And because I've been living this way for well over 25 years now, close to 30 years, I have a few things to share, some experience. And that's what we're all about here at the Quiet Rebellion, sharing experience, being educated, and educating. So here we go. Let's talk about ways we can be simple in our lives that have long-term ripple effects outside of just our homes. And these are really simple things. I'm promising you, it's simple things you can do. And one of the first things we can do is mend our clothing. We have a society where fast fashion means clothes are cheap and not always well made. And so we just throw things away instead of repairing them. And I'm here to tell you, if we repair, we can save our money, and we can use our money in different ways, and we can extend the life of our clothing. So while we can do really beautiful visible mending, we don't have to. We can use the iron-on patches. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can sometimes use the iron-on patches, and we can sometimes do really elaborate, beautiful, visible mending if that's what we have the time and inclination to do. I personally do a little bit of both. I sometimes just put the iron-on patch over the tiny little hole on the elbow, and other times, if something tears, I will make something really beautiful out of it. It just depends on the clothing and what I wear that clothing for. So if it's a pair of sweatpants, for example, that my husband just wears around the house or to do chores with, it doesn't really matter what it looks like, and I just throw a piece of cloth over there and sew it on. Doesn't have to be pretty. If it's something that I wear casually or to hang out with friends or to go for shopping or whatever, I might make it a little more intricate. Something really professional, and say a hole in the elbow, I might use those leather iron-on patches to make it look really nice. So again, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be one way or another. It's also kind of important as an aside or to this topic is to let your clothing have purpose. So you wear nice clothing, professional clothing when you're going to work events or anything like that. But then maybe when you get home, you change your clothes before you go out in the garden. You have chore clothes. That's what my grandma used to do, right? That was something my grandmother taught me and something I still do to this day. I have clothes I wear outside the house and clothes I wear inside the house. So clothes that I garden in, clothes that I cook or clean in are not the same clothes that I wear even to the grocery store most of the time. So wear an apron too, because that helps a lot in just keeping down. And doing those kinds of things mean that your clothes last longer. You might not have to mend so long, and you don't have to replace clothing as much. When something does get beyond repair, then let's try and thrift shop first. Because we don't need to add any more things to the landfill, shopping at secondhand stores allows us to support our local community. Sometimes those goes for various charities. Sometimes it's just a consignment shop for more professional clothing, so we're supporting a small business. So buy secondhand before even going to buy new, even high-end clothes. Let's try not to do the fast fashion, okay? It's just not supportive for anyone that in any really good way. Along with mending, let's talk about repairing. If the dryer starts to not work at home, is it just the heating element that needs to be replaced? And if so, is that something you can do yourself? Can you watch a YouTube video to figure out how to do it? And if you can't, that's okay too, because sometimes we need to hire professionals. And again, this supports our local community. It allows us to keep our neighbors in jobs and business. So while we might be able to rewire a ceiling fan all by ourselves, we probably cannot, unless we're an electrician, wire a whole new outbuilding or garage, right? So again, there's time and nuance for both. We can repair things on our own and we can hire people when we need to. And it's important that we just try our best to make things last as long as we can by repairing them. And again, if something cannot be repaired, can we buy secondhand before we buy something new? Sometimes that's possible, sometimes that's not, depending on the appliance, right? A used coffee maker probably isn't going to save you much money and it probably won't last as long anyway than a new one. But maybe you can buy a secondhand refrigerator from someone on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist that's only been used, a few months or something. So just try, see if you can find secondhand before you replace. And also resist the urge to just automatically replace everything. If the air fryer goes out, how often have you used it? Do you really need to buy a new one, or can you make do with what you already have at home? So again, there's no right or wrong here, but just try to see if you can maybe go without something, or maybe, if you wait a while, you can wait for a sale. Just try to resist the urge to immediately replace, immediately redo, immediately fix things that may or may not need to be fixed. Sometimes we can do without, sometimes we can. Only you know. Okay, cook from scratch. It's a very quietly rebellious thing in our modern world that not forces, but certainly markets convenience foods and buying out all the time. Now, there is a place in our lives for eating out. I certainly eat out now and then. It's a wonderful thing to do on occasion. But I cook from scratch most of the time. And I like to cook. Now, I know not everyone likes to cook. So if you don't like to cook, please know that you don't have to cook gourmet meals all the time. A sandwich is a perfectly acceptable meal. For what we do at our house is we call them hamburger steaks, which is just the hamburger patty without a bun. And we serve it alongside a warmed up jar of home canned green beans and some homemade pickles, maybe some ketchup or mustard or relish or whatever. And that's dinner. And that's perfect and wonderful. And we have that probably once, maybe twice a week because we buy half a cow. We get a lot of ground beef. So it can be really simple. Taco salads. It can be really simple soups with just a side of bread. It does not have to be fancy meals. No one can make fancy meals 3 times a day, 7 days a week, no matter what you might see on social media or other bloggers say. So please just know it can be simple, simple, simple. Make time for new recipes if you like to cook, but don't feel like you have to. Most of us probably eat the same thing on repeat more often than other people realize. So just eat what you like and don't worry about how fancy it is or if it's like Instagram worthy. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be nourishing and delicious. Let's talk about gardening. If you can garden, I'm going to say do it. It has a great way of keeping us grounded in what the earth is providing, what actual seasonal living looks like, not what's at the grocery store. It also has a way of just providing stress relief. There's just something really wonderful that happens when we get our hands in some dirt. Now, keeping a big garden is a lot of work. And so you need to be really honest with yourself about what kind of time and energy you have, and obviously space. If you can get a space in a community garden, that's great. If you can't, a few pots of herbs is a wonderful thing because you can make, herbal tea, you can season your foods, you can make herbal remedies. If that's all you can do, that's wonderful and great. If you can do more, that's great too. So do what you can keep track of, what you can maintain, because you have to weed and you have to harvest and you have to sometimes deal with pests and all of that kind of thing. So garden when you can, but don't make it so that it's overwhelming or miserable for you. If you can't grow something, then I want you to buy local. And we're going to talk about buy local in a number of different ways. All right. So there's buying local from farmers. Absolutely. Hit the farmers markets, join a CSA, hit the local fruit stands, whatever it means in your area. You should absolutely buy local fruit, vegetables, herbs, meat, poultry, fish, if possible. Whatever you can buy local, I want you to try and do that because there is no better way to keep yourself and your neighbors secure than through having some sort of food security that's local and not reliant on any kind of outside food source or chain. Because, disruptions happen. We've all seen it with pandemics, natural disasters, all of that kind of thing. This is not about prepping for the apocalypse necessarily. It is about just making sure your neighbors have stable food and stable jobs, right? So if they're able to provide for their families, then your community is better all around. So if you can buy local food, absolutely do that. And you will learn if you shop often enough from local farmers, you start to find a network of other people who are also involved in local food. And you'll be surprised how much is going on in your local community that's really quiet and under the radar and you might not know about until you get to know other local people who are eating local food and in that kind of network of just local food. So absolutely local food. But I also want you to buy local in terms of other things whenever possible and support small business. So often online we see people talk about supporting small business and then they want like a website or someone on social media. And that's great. Absolutely, you can do that. But I bet even though you're following so and so on Instagram who makes really beautiful soap, there's probably somebody in your community who might not be on social media who is making really wonderful soap and would love your business. So again, maybe the farmers market. Hit the local craft shows, the arts in the parks, all those kinds of little things. Hit those kinds of shows. Yes, it's not delivered to your door. Yes, you have to go out and shop. But this is good for you and your community. So hit those things, buy your soaps, buy your mugs from local potters, buy whatever, aprons. There's just a variety of things that you can buy from local people at craft shows and whatever. Use this for your gifts. Buy ahead of time. Often there's a lot of these kinds of shows in the summer, spring and summer months. Buy then and just hold on to them for Christmas if that's when you need gifts more often than not. Although there's probably markets during the holiday season too. So again, shop local. It's going to be so important. And you're just going to really find a community of wonderful people that you want to support if you allow yourself to do this. I realize it takes time, which is why it's a lot more fun sometimes to hit like a market. Because when you hit like an arts market or a crafts market, then you can hit on multiple different people in one day and, pick up cards so that you can visit their websites or social media if they have them and buy from them later if you don't need anything at that particular moment in time. Also, don't forget to shop secondhand. We can buy used books for our friends. We can buy the really funky vintage mugs at thrift stores or whatever. That might be really wonderful gifts. So don't forget to shop secondhand before maybe going to some sort of big box store. I realize in some places big box stores are all we have, but if you can shop at like a market of some kind, it will be worth your time and energy and it will probably be really fun too. Okay, we talked about the farmers market. We talked about buying local, and I'm going to use like real paper notes, which I realize is probably old fashioned, but that's what we're going to do here at the Quiet Rebellion. I'm going to ask you to support your local organizations. Now, obviously, we all have limited time and money. Find a cause or two that you like, that you want to support, and support that organization in whatever way you can. If it is take extra produce from your garden to the local food pantry or community refrigerator, then please do that. We have a community refrigerator where I live. It just sits outside and you can go drop off the extras from your garden. Just put it in there anytime, night or day, and people can come and take what they need. No questions asked. You don't have to like apply. You can just go and take what you need or want from their community refrigerator. I drop off stuff all the time. It's probably one of my favorite local things to do. The charity that has that is also one of my favorite local charities, and I do a lot to support them. So do what you can. Absolutely write checks, volunteer, whatever you can do, right? Make the pie for the pie auction, make some cupcakes for the bake sale. Whatever you can do, try to help out now and then. Because again, you're supporting your neighbors and those organizations mean that your community is going to get better. And the stronger our communities are, the more rebellious we can be. That's just a plain fact. Community doesn't mean that we have to be friends with everyone. It just means that we have to support the people who live near us so that we can all live content lives. I want you to share your knowledge. So, one of the things you can do to support organizations is maybe teach a class at your local library about canning or knitting or pressing flowers. Share whatever knowledge you have with others in whatever way you can. I teach classes at the community college. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it for free, but maybe now and then you do some for free and some for money. But share your knowledge. Be willing to answer questions in the Facebook group about gardening to other new gardeners. Be willing to maybe answer a question to somebody who's like, how do I make applesauce from the apples that are falling in the backyard? Whatever it is, just try to share your knowledge now and then. Again, we all have limited time and energy, but just try to be available to share your knowledge. And you can also do this on social media that wouldn't necessarily just be only local. But try to do some things locally so that you can share with people. The best things I've learned about gardening in the years I've been gardening are from other people who are local and who have been doing it longer than I am, right? So it's the little old man who gave me seeds from his garden that he had saved for a kind of squash seeds, and he told me how he would pre-germinate them, right? And then grow them. And like learning those kinds of tips from other people go a long way, because sometimes they'll teach you things that are like really specific to your area that you are not going to learn in a book or from some sort of national teacher, because it's not so specific to you. So share your knowledge, but also, and this is the final tip for today, be willing to be educated. Educate yourself. Read, attend classes, talk to people at different events, ask questions. Get information from a variety of sources so that whatever you're learning about, you're not only getting one viewpoint. This is obviously very important in today's day and age with AI. Sometimes we're not always sure what we're getting is trustworthy or accurate information. So absolutely get information from a number of different sources. Use your library, get books. You can often download ebooks and sometimes videos and all kinds of things from the library. So make real use of your library so that you can use it. Find and follow different people on social media. Sign up for newsletters, read books, whatever you can do, find sources of information that are within and without, right? So that you're getting accurate representation of a lot of different viewpoints so that you can figure out what is best for you. And sometimes, obviously, there's certain things, right? Like canning is canning is canning. I'm not a fan of rebel canning. So we follow certain protocols, right? But we also know that like certain gardening things are really good and some things maybe aren't so great, right? We know we don't want to put salt, for instance, on the ground because that kills the earth, right? So just learn from a variety of different sources so that you can be educated, and then you can also share that information with other people going forward. That's all we have for today for my really simple tips. I really want to say thank you for coming here to our very first episode of The Quiet Rebellion. And please subscribe and know that we will be coming to you twice a month with interviews and information you can use to live your own quietly rebellious life.